TikTok over there? You should be getting the
Um,
live. You got to go on TikTok, get it all ready.
I gotta
All
hop.
right.
Uh, I gotta hop
All
into.
right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get. You gotta go. Yeah, welcome, guys. If you're on TikTok here, if you're on YouTube, if you want to, I'm going to put the share on the Facebook while Doc's getting perfect as a guest. Share on the Facebook while Doc's getting perfect, and that's going to be perfect right there. Here comes Doc with the.
Oh, wow, there it
There we
is.
go. There's Doc's face.
All right,
There you go.
be doing
Now
big
he's
things
like,
now,
you
man.
can see what he looks like.
There we
There
go.
we go. There we go.
Big
Guys,
five. Okay.
welcome back to another edition of Boundaries and Brotherhood. If you're watching this live on TikTok, if you're watching this live on YouTube, but we're going to be doing a recording on here, the flow is so great. And today's topic, which is going to be something so amazing. Let's get this ready for. This is Doc's birthday, right? Welcome back. It's Doc's birthday. Wish him. He's a 22-year-old man. Still, he's still a
Well,
young buck
to be
coming out
honest,
of
guys,
the
I don't look too
shadows.
much. I don't look too much different than when I was 22 years old. So, you know, I guess that's kind of a flex. At 41, still looking like you're 22 or something
There you
like
go.
that.
Hey,
Doing all right.
41, man, you're still young, man. I'll be turning 60 soon. Who looks the same? But it's his day. I want to grant him, wish him a happy birthday. But that goes to our topic, right? The topic today is embracing your edge, no matter what age you're doing at what age, what phase in life you're in, redefining masculine strength, right? What if everything you thought you knew about being a man was wrong? What if doing the things with the old beliefs? We already talked about this before, diving deep into this, what they call contemporary masculinity, and challenging the outdated ideas because it's so perfect because Doc had some ideas from his old videos, from our old content, and the strength of how vulnerability in today's day matters in 2020. We're going to get ready to redefine what it truly means to be a powerful, authentic, and connected man in 2025. Hold on to your seats because Doc's going to lay this down while I get all this situated. Doc, reintroduce yourself, scan the code if you need some professional help, and let's get this cracking.
All right. So yes, we talk about redefining what it means to be a man, nowadays, but I think what we need to actually do is get back to what the actual true intention and meaning of what it was to be a man. Because
Ooh,
we've let history, we let the world, we let people who didn't know whether they were coming or going define manhood, right?
true.
And so now we have all of these misnomers and misconceptions about what strength is and what masculinity is. And, you got to sleep with a whole bunch of women, or, you got to, make all this money, or you got to be the absolute number one provider, all these things. And I mean, obviously, if you guys know me, I'm a big believer in the Bible. And so that's my foundation. But if you aren't a believer in the Bible, well, you should have some foundation. But you could agree with me that someone would have to have set the standard a long time ago. Someone that's better than us, someone that's higher than us, someone that has complete total understanding of what it is to be a man would have to be the one to have set that standard. Now we have to stop and ask ourselves the question, who set the current modern standard of what it is to be a man? And who said it's okay?
Right, right, right. That's a deep question. Who set the standard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is it the alpha male? Is it the biggest 6'8" caveman that hold the club that fed everybody? Where did he come from?
Yeah.
Especially in today's days, because everything has changed. The dating scene, how people react, how men view your grandfather's beliefs from before.
Yeah.
You're not in a wilderness anymore where your neighbor is the next mountain over, where you have to till the land and all
Yeah.
that bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So, how does it work nowadays from what you're seeing in today's 2025? To me, there's this gap of this type of man and the ones that's portrayed. Speak
Yeah.
about that.
So yes, in 2025, we've unfortunately been influenced heavily by social media, right?
Right.
We've been thrown so much confusion on what it is to be a man, by people who say they are men who are not, right? You
Yep.
got hard, you got to be, you got to not share and open up to anybody, and you got to, hold it all in and handle all your problems yourself and stop whining and stop being a bee and all these things like that. Like, and so especially when we have all these broken homes, that's a whole other thing as well.
Ooh, that's a whole nother
Yeah,
thing.
these boys coming out of these broken homes that don't see a good image of a man. So they don't even know what it looks like. They're being raised by women, and no disrespect to women, but a woman
No, yeah.
cannot teach a
Cannot.
boy how to be a man, and not because women are incompetent or anything like that. We know women are smart, they're bright, that you guys are kill it in all ways, right? But I can't
But
teach my daughter how to be a woman
no.
because I'm not a
Yep.
woman. I don't think like a woman. I don't move like a woman. I'm not biologically wired like a woman. So there are certain things that my daughter can only get from her mother, just like there's only certain things that my sons can only get from me. And so then you have a whole generation of people growing up without fathers. Their father is someone on TikTok. Their father is someone in a rap video. Their father is some, big businessman that has loose morals. And so they don't know what way to go. And so
True.
unfortunately, what ends up happening is you start trying to, oh, I'm supposed to be a man. So they say to be a man, I got to get six pack abs. So I'm going to get six pack abs. Am I a man now? Looking for outside validation, Oh,
Valid.
well, I got to make sure I don't take nothing from nobody, and if anyone's familiar with what's the guy's name? Raja Jackson, Rampage Jackson's son, whose life is probably now over as a result of not being able to get validation from himself, seeking like, oh, I didn't take any crap from this guy, and I knocked him out and beat him up and did all this damage to him, and he didn't even see it coming. Am I a man now? Am I good enough now? Right? Like we have a whole generation of boys seeking and looking, like I was talking about that standard before. Who set that standard? Because all these boys, they're growing up and becoming young men. And some of us as men, even today, we're still kind of looking with like, doe eyes, like, am I good enough now? Am I good enough? I made enough money. Am I good enough? Am I a man now? And so that's the issue. We don't have a standard or we don't know what the standard is, which we'll talk about today of what that standard is. And if you work with us, we'll show you not only what the standard is, but how to apply it in your life so you can be the complete and total man you're supposed to be. You can become that 11th man. But
Right.
that's the issue. That's the gap. The gap is we don't have a standard and we don't know what the heck we're looking for. Is it this whole alpha, beta, gamma, sigma? Is it that whole thing? Is it, if I gotta, make a lot of money, do I gotta dress a certain way? Do I gotta look a certain way? Do I gotta have a certain amount of women? Do I gotta have a certain type of woman? Like, it's like all these questions flying around, and we're just trying our best. And unfortunately, a lot of men are getting stuck in these echo chambers, right? So you get stuck in this echo chamber of what it means to be a man, and then you can't pull yourself out of that. Now you're stuck with all these beliefs that are tearing yourself apart, keeping you isolated, destroying you, destroying your relationships because you're believing all these things that just aren't true and have no basis and no standard or anything like that. So I would say we're talking about the gap. That's the reason for the gap. But I'm
Right. Right.
thankful, kind of like to what you said, I'm thankful that we are now awakening essentially, right? We're coming, into our own. We're starting to recognize that all these things that we've been taught have been lies. That's not what it means to be a man. Right? All that junk out there, alpha, beta, sigma, abs, money, gotta do all that. Like all that stuff, you know, is either horribly distorted or just a flat out lie. And so
Right. Right.
I would say that's the gap, right? That's the gap between where a lot of people are now and to where we need to be. Because the truth is, like us as men, you know, we have to embrace vulnerability because that's where growth is, and that's actually where our power is, right? When I can
True.
actually face like, okay, and say, hey, this is my vulnerability. I'm not saying obviously share it with just anybody and anybody. If you've seen our videos, you talked about groups and things like that, but I can embrace that. And once I can embrace it, guess what? It has no power over me anymore at
Yep.
all. Once I can say, this is my weakness, this is where I fell short, this is where I fall short, guess what? I now take away the power from everybody and anybody who would come and say, oh, oh, let me use this against you, or things like that. And so there's a true strength in that, right? And knowing who we are, really, really important. So,
No, absolutely 100%. Because even for myself and even the people I'm around, there's certain stigmas that go around with being a man, because you want to be the tough guy, you want to be the alpha man, you want to be the one making the most money, you want to be the one with the most friends, you want to go to the club, you want to floss, you want to go off with an entourage. All for what? Every single alpha man that you even looked at it, this from Mike Tyson to everybody else, changed at the end of everything else.
yep.
Everything was rented space for
Hmm.
what? Outside validation, because it wasn't happy for themselves.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at the time it took for them to become purposeful, to have purpose, and they reach into being vulnerable and helping other people to serve in a way that is not selfish reliance.
Yeah.
The things that's on the internet, well, you see the people, I don't want to mention the names, this and that, they all come out to be fraud at the end of it.
Yeah.
And it's huge. It's a huge epidemic, problematic, because even for myself, I'll tell you, when I was going in my 20s, in my let's see, in my 20s or 30s, okay, my office was make money, do a thing, run everybody over. My office used to be looking over Waikiki, and I used to tell myself, this was mine's,
Hmm.
right? Because that was the alpha thing that everybody else went around with, the guys that robbed, gangster, dope, drugs, prostitution, gambling, all that crap. Everything that you could think of, I was in. It didn't make me happy until I realized, until I went to prison and I figured out, you know what? All of that was just false crap that I believed.
Hmm.
Now, imagine it's exposed exponentially with social media, right? Now
Hmm.
it goes, I thank God I wasn't around when social media time happened. I mean,
Yeah.
Bluetooth was just coming out. I mean, the flip razor phone was the in thing. And, right? The razor, that was the thing. But no, the journey that you've come to have genuine connection, not with yourself, but with other people, with people that makes a difference, is matters. And Doc, let me ask you this question, right?
Yeah.
What do you see the difference from when you were a child to now that you have a profession?
Hmm.
What's the difference you see?
Well,
Your
with
beliefs,
when it comes to,
professional.
as far as when it comes to men,
Yes. It's because I'm curious. Like what you like, I would assume that the reason why you went into the profession, not to just to help people, to figure yourself out.
yeah. Well, I didn't
You know what I
necessarily go
mean?
to figure myself out. I actually went to ultimately was to I was trying to help kids ultimately.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah, I was because I didn't want them to experience same things I went through,
true.
as a child, right? So
Yeah.
me as a child, when I was going to a great amount of detail, there are many, many moments where I felt alone. I
Mm,
felt less than, like I'm not enough. Shoot, there were times I even felt like I was a mistake, like I shouldn't have even been here. I experienced all that, right?
gotcha.
And I never want anyone to experience that, right? And so I actually started working with kids because I'm like, I don't want those kids to experience the things I've experienced. And so then my work transformed and changed over time because I was like, well, for me to help the kids, I got to help, I got to get into the homes, right? Because if I can get into the homes, I can start working
True.
with their parents. And then it transformed again because I was like, well, if I really want the kids to do well, then I have to go to the oldest and most sacred, institution that guarantees kids well-being, and that's marriage, right? Because if I can
Mhm.
save a marriage, if I can fix and help couples communicate and connect with one another, and then I could then the kids will have a great environment. And so then I took it one step further with that. And then that's where it came to men because it was like, well, men are supposed to be leaders, providers, protectors. There was a study done, by I don't know if it was done by John Gottman and his wife or his colleagues or whatnot, but it was talking about how 70% of a relationship, and how it goes is determined by the man. And so I was like, oh shoot, right? And so that's what kind of led me here, right? Because I know if we can help men, right? Especially help men understand who they are and not seek
I was just,
validation, not
yep,
be nice guys, not, be overly aggressive, but just really be
right,
okay with I am who I am. I don't have to put on for anybody. I don't have to try to be something that I'm
right.
not. I can just be me. You know, I don't have to be a stereotype. I don't have to be a cultural stereotype or a social stereotype. I can be the full authentic version of me. Because, and so, and to your question as well, what I saw was, even tying into that, was that growing up as, as a black kid, who didn't necessarily, conform to a lot of like black culture when I was growing up. I didn't grow up in the hood. I didn't grow up in a single parent home. I didn't grow up with my cousins around me. I didn't see violence. I didn't see a lot of these stereotypical things that people say, oh, wow, to be black, you got to do that. I didn't talk the way a lot of black people talk. I didn't do a lot of that stuff, right? And so then you grow up in society trying to figure out who you are. And if you don't have a man in your life telling you this is who you are, and you don't have to conform to anybody, right? Then you got to pick a side, right?
You
Because I
got
did
to
get
pick a side.
ridiculed for that. I did get ridiculed for not fitting into the mold of what it was to be black. So then
Right.
I was forced into that mold, right? And not just the mold of what it is to be black, but also the mold of what it is to be a man according to culture, right? And so you try to be tough and you try to be by yourself and not ask for help and not do any of these things and struggle alone and cry in the dark and suck it up and keep moving forward. And that shouldn't bother you. You need to get women, like, all that stuff. Like that was what I was programmed with. And so there was so much inadequacy. I was struggling with so much inadequacy a majority of my life because it was like, I'm not fitting the mold that they say is to be a man. I'm not fitting that mold. No matter what I try, I'm not fitting that mold. I'm not in a super masculine career or whatnot. I'm out here into counseling and working with kids and things like that. Mind you, use all these labels the world put on things, right? So, the evolution of me, so to speak, through my career and what I've seen with just like masculinity and manhood up until this point is that I started to realize that ask the question, like, who decided that? Who decided that these are the rules? Who
That's
decided that this
deep.
is how I have to be? Who decided that
Yes.
as a black person I can't like any kind of music or dress any kind of way that I want to and still maintain, my authenticity as being black? Like that's what I started to see. I started to question, and I think that's a key part that we have to start doing. We have to start questioning these norms. Who said that these are the norms? Who said that this is the way things are supposed to be? Right? Because until we understand who said that, then why? Then we're not going to understand. Okay, why do I got to listen to it then? Right. So
Right.
again, I started out in the beginning talking about my faith. Well, God set the standard for certain things. So that's who said it. Someone bigger than me, greater than me, smarter than me, has more foresight than me, understands, always wants the best for me. That's who said it. And so then you start looking at, okay, well, who said this is what it means to be a man? Right. And I know something I've been picking up on recently, right? Because I'm sure, Gordon, you've heard in the past, and most men have heard in the past that men are supposed to be providers and they're supposed to, make all the money and women are supposed to stay at home and everything like that. And then I started listening and doing some research on my own and started figuring out like that was just started like in the 50s. That wasn't like a norm. Actually, the norm back in the day was that everybody worked. They might have had different jobs, but everybody was working. The wife was working, the kids were working, everybody was doing something. It wasn't just like, oh, she stayed at home with, and had a child just breastfeeding while the guy just went out there and did that and she's cleaned up. Like that's not historically, it's not how it was. So long story short, I'm saying like we need to start questioning all these norms, like what it is to be a man. We need to start questioning it and then find out, okay, like what really stands, what's real, what's fake, what can I let go of, what can I embrace, what can I ignore. That's a long answer to a short question, but that's what I've seen change from when I was a boy to now as I'm a man, and I'm starting to see more brothers do the same thing. They're starting to question those norms and recognize that who said I got to struggle alone? Who said I got to fight off suicide day after day? Like who said that? So that's the changes that I've seen.
No, absolutely. Because some of the outdated ideas that you have, maybe even from me looking back, right? Like you said, men has to do certain things, old ideas. Men have to go out there and go till the fields, make the money, wife stays home, uh, cooks the meal, raise the kids and everything. What if I told you, wait, what if I told you a person like me did 14 years in federal prison and I'm the stay-at-home dad? What are you going to tell me? Right? I have the capabilities of putting you away so you don't even exist, right? I'll tell you this right now. But at the same time, is it old? values? Is it old things that got into my head? There's no longer the form like you got to do what's good for you, your family, your well-being, your health, so you don't undo yourself. With
Yeah.
the epidemic is going on because you want to, if you have to put so much level on say an alpha male that you've seen on YouTube and you buy all his programs and you don't reach that mark, aren't you going to be have anxiety or depressed or feel like you're unworthy when you should have been happy with yourself and figured this thing out? Because those are unchallenged beliefs that you've had from the 1860s,
Yeah.
right? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to give you a shout out to Moy, Chris, everything, Mexican G, Manuel. I just wanted to say aloha. And I mean, this is what redefining your strength as a man, as a person in today's society, different from what it used to be 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you wouldn't see me on here talking about this type of crap, right? Emotionally, because I wasn't in my thing. I'm gonna run you over. I'm gonna steal from you. I'm gonna get what I can, and I'm gonna be a selfish person. Now it's about where did that get me? Nowhere. There's our old beliefs. Now, Doc, I know you want to say something.
Well,
You're
I actually
itching.
want to ask you a question about that. I want to ask you a
Sure.
question about that because this is something that someone asked me a question. I was talking like to my daughter the other day
Okay.
about and we were talking about like why men do the things we do, right?
Okay.
And let me ask you a question, and maybe you weren't conscious of it at that time,
Mhm.
but why were you doing the things you were doing? Like what was that trying to deep wise, not just like I was trying to make money, but deep wise, like what was that thing supposed to fulfill in you that made you do that?
Acceptance, right? You don't want to be, you want to get all this acceptance from, say, being on the streets, getting the money, all because it started out being accepted from my stepdad, who used to beat my ass, right? Or my real father that I thought abandoned me. And that's what it stems out to. And that's the real thought about it. So everything that you strive for is I want to be better than him so I can be accepted by him. I want to be better at this sport because that's going to validate me. But what did I do? I didn't validate myself. But those are coming things from being around this type of confusion
Yeah.
and old beliefs. Yeah, you're gonna learn how, like in Hawaii, all we do is fight. That's why you see so many fighters coming out of. If you don't know how to fight, we're gonna call your cousin and we're gonna go over there and we'll beat your ass. If not, you go home, you get your ass beat. So we learn how to fight, right? But that it comes down to those certain things and those old beliefs went all the way through me, being sports, doing everything else, all the way until I went to prison and I had to sit down and be in my echo chamber and figure it all out.
Yeah.
All of this was just bullshit. For what? I didn't find my own purpose, but see, now there's a difference.
Yeah.
I have my own purpose and I'm teaching my kids, I'm teaching them to be men, but I'm also teaching them how to accept their vulnerability so they can talk to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And this is why we do this because like I said, me and Doc does this because the legacy, one day I'm not going to be around. I'm close to 60 years old. My kids is 5. He just went to kindergarten. I've outgrown my time. All I can do is leave advice.
Yeah.
This is why I do it for me and my kids, the people that's going to be watching this for you guys here. Because take it from me, most of my friends, or most of the people, the ones that are lucky, are still around, not on drugs, not on dope, not killing nobody, not in jail. But the ones that bring back catching 20-year bits again, 30-year sentence back in there. And they write me, they call me, so I'm like, it's not even worth it. But it's like, that's all they know. They didn't self validate themselves. So they're right back to prison and go back to what the normal is being back on the yard. Does that answer your question for?
That answers my question. And I hope you guys are taking notes on that or at least recognize that, and see, is that why you do what you do? Is that why you keep jumping from bed to bed? Is that why you keep trying to work harder and harder and hustle more and more and more? Is that why you keep trying to do people pleasing? Is that why? Because you're trying to be accepted, right? Because the fact of
Except
the matter is, you are on a hamster wheel and you will never get to that place where you finally feel like I arrived. Because I'll tell you this, even those, especially high achievers, even them, you guys who are at that point, even when you get to that point, you've made that $10 million, $100 million, whatever, right? You have the successful business, you have the baddest wife and the nicest cars, you still don't feel like you're enough. You look to the next level. Oh, well, maybe if I made $1 billion, or maybe if I had a better wife, or a better car, or a better house, or a better, whatever it is, it'll never, ever, ever be enough. You have to accept yourself for who you are, where you are, and be okay with that. Because the
Right.
outside stuff is not going to fulfill you. And as Gordon just said, it's the same thing, trying to be accepted. As I was saying in my example, everything I was trying to be accepted. I want to be accepted by, the black clique when growing up, right? I want to be accepted by the people I was around. So I became a chameleon, just did whatever would worked to become accepted. But the crazy part is no matter how much in I was with the group, I never felt accepted. I still felt alone. I still felt misunderstood. I still felt like I couldn't be myself because I couldn't because that wasn't really me. There were aspects of me that expanded beyond what society says stereotypes you got to fit in. And there's so many of us who are like that. And I'll just say this real quick, and then I'll switch it over to you, Gordon. I was on Facebook the other day, and I'm not into heavy metal or rock or anything like that. I mean, you listen to like MTV back in the day, you know. But but what I starting to see more black people in like heavy metal and rock. And I'm like, I can dig it. I like that. Right. Not for the point because I like the music, but I like the fact that they're saying, I'm not going to let someone else define who I am. I'm going to accept who I am, what I like. It's why I wear my shirts, my anime shirts. It's why I wear them.
Yeah.
That's me. And other people, I've had other people say, "Oh, you should get a nice polo or you should wear some slacks." And that's not me. I don't want to be like anybody else. I want to be me, period. Right? Because I finally got to a point where I can accept myself. And if you don't like me, and this is as a strong message for you guys, if someone doesn't like you for who you are authentically, that is okay. They can leave, they can go. They don't need to be in your life. You don't need that level of negativity in your life if that's what they're going to do. But you owe it to yourself because it's the only validation that's ever going to fulfill you is when you give it to yourself. It doesn't matter what you try to do for anybody else. It's got to come from you. So,
Right.
all right.
I mean, it's a validation, old masculinity beliefs, being a different person. I mean, honestly, I feel not being honest, I mean keeping it real, right? Because if you're seeking outside validation from acceptance from say gangs, we see this in when we do it with me and Doc do a thing with the kids with Real Talk, right? We help kids. This is how we do our thing. But it all comes down to the sooner they can accept for who they are and keep themselves happy because they will find it's good to have friends, it's good to have acquaintances, it's good to cut off some friends in some of our old stuff.
Yeah.
Because the God, the man up above, whoever you believe in, made you special for a reason. Until you figure that out, and your gifts and what you can do with all your experiences or the experiences that you're going to have, you will keep striving for something more until you figure that out. And I'm
Yeah.
going to say, it's going to take, for some of us, it takes going to a prison for a long sentence. I mean, I just had one of my friends that just, I talked to yesterday, his son, well, the wife's son just got a 30-year bit for just, for
Ooh,
attempted kidnapping for
ooh,
$300 because they played around and said, hey, you're going to go get your mom or else you're not going to get let go.
boy.
30 years, right? So they're not playing out there. They're
Yeah.
not playing. But I've been in that world, right? I've been in that world. Even like with Carrie, she's been in that world, right? But no matter what world you come from, individuals always trying to look for acceptance, validation, and they will crave that thing wherever it is. Where the standard came from, what our topic is today, we don't know. But the man up above created you in a special way. Until you figure that out, it's going to be really, really detrimental that you try to. Because after it's all said and done, when everything's gone, the money can be gone, the hot girlfriends, the cars can be gone, the houses, everything else. If you're not happy with yourself and you don't redefine, you will go back to the same old shit.
Oh yeah.
No, hands down.
Yeah.
Where do you, let's see, if you was to pinpoint some of the problems you see with this validation, this masculinity stuff, where do you think it derived from?
Parents, parents.
Oh,
Yep. Yep. Sorry, guys.
that's
Um,
true.
you might love your mom, you
Even
might love your dad.
it's true.
I've yet to see where dysfunctions and issues in our lives come from anywhere else but our parents because we're with our parents, and our parents are the most influential voices in our life.
True.
Right. And unfortunately, because we have parents who are having kids, and they have all their own issues, their own traumas, their own problems, if they haven't resolved, then they pass that stuff on to us, right? And even if those who don't have as many issues, right? A lot of times you don't know how to parent properly. We treat kids as like subhumans, and so it's like just do what I say and don't give them a voice or don't allow them to express themselves. And so then they now have to conform. They learn from a very, very early age. We're not talking about, oh, when they're 7, 8, 9, 10, they're teenagers. We're talking about you start forcing them to conform when they're 1, when they're 2, when they're 3, right? I was watching this video the other day with the baby in there. And I was guilty of this too, so I can speak to it. But when our babies are crying, right? They're having some type of issue. What do? We yell at them, tell them to calm down, tell them to quiet down, things like that. We ignore them or we laugh about it or whatever the case may be. Whatever that your child, your son, your daughter, whatever issue they're having, it's a legit issue for them. It's why they're crying.
For
They don't
them.
know how to resolve it. Just like when we are having an issue with a relationship, and maybe people look at it and it's like, oh, you shouldn't have been in that relationship anyways, but we're having a legit issue. So just like we dismiss the baby, we dismiss our children when they have issues, they have problems. It's not a big deal. It's not important, things like that. Or if you want to talk about acceptance, Gordon, that part, right? So then, because that's the invalidation what I was talking about before, but acceptance, kids don't have to do anything to get a smile or a hug or a kiss or anything. They don't got to do anything when they're younger, when they're cute, big eyes and all stuff like that. But guess what ends up happening? The kids then, we stop giving them the same reaction. Now they got to do something more to get the same reaction. So now they
Correct.
got to come home from school, Gordon, and your kids are in kindergarten. Now they got to show you a picture. Oh, then eventually now you got to give you the grades. Now they got to do well in sports. Now they got to get that same reaction that made them feel good, where they didn't have to do anything for it before to feel loved and accepted. Now they got to work for it, work for it, work for it, work for it. And so now you see how we as parents train our children to recognize that you're not worthy of my attention or love or affection unless you're performing. And so then we go our whole life doing the same thing, seeking
Same
acceptance.
crap. Yep.
We've been taught from the very beginning that we
Same.
have to earn it, right? And then the emotional aspect that I was talking about before, there's that aspect when you kind of tear a kid down and tell them like, oh, you're making a big deal out of nothing. That's not important, yada yada, whatever. And you do that over and over and over again, shut them down, and then you wonder why they start rebelling against you when they're teenagers. Because I'm gonna tell you now, Gordon, you have young kids, take this word to heart. That is not there is no rebellious teenage stage. There's none. If you do it right, if you give your children a voice, if you teach them to be independent, if you let them have that emotional regulation and you allow them the opportunity to make choices as time goes on, you're not going to have a rebellious stage because there's no need to rebel. If I have an issue, I can talk to dad.
True.
He's fair. He's
100%
honest.
true.
So the long story is to answer your question, where do these issues come from? They come from us as parents doing that to our kids. And again, and I'll share that I was on that path with my kids as well. And
Mm.
thankfully, I thank God that I was able to turn the ship for a majority of my kids before it really got, out of hand, right? So I say that that's where it comes from. That's the issues we have. That's why we see that so much, and that's why we as adults, and especially as men, why we seek that validation from the outside because we've been trained to do it from the very beginning. If you're not performing, you're not worthy. And you hear it in some of the podcasts are like a man has to provide and give all this money and sacrifice himself and never ask for help and always do this in order to earn love. And the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, that's a mindset we have because you can't earn love. By definition, it has to be given freely. So now we're on that hamster wheel of trying
Again,
to earn, and never feeling we're enough because we're trying to achieve something, that acceptance that's supposed to be given freely. And so that's where it comes from. Again, long answer to a short question. That's where it comes from.
but no, you're 100% right because how you was raised from your parents, those beliefs, those old habits, don't still came from you from their baggage.
Yeah.
Now, whether you carry that baggage as a man to pass it on to your son, like that hamster wheel, that cycle of everything going on, but then now you added your own twist to it with
Yeah.
at the phase in the generation that you might be in right now. Like you might have, you might have a 20-year-old trying to figure things out, but he been taught differently from a dad that's 60 years old with his old beliefs from his grandfather. It's not going
Yeah.
to work in a modern day. This is
Mm.
why the modern man is confused, and the edge that they have, they to me they lost their edge as a man because it's confusing. You want to be accepted, but you want to be an alpha male. You want to be validated, but you don't know where to turn to. You want to be this guru, whoever you see you follow on. There's so many of them on YouTube. You wanna be that person, have all the cars, but at the end of the day, so oh my idol was just got caught up for fraud. Like what the frick?
Shatters your whole world. Shatters your
It's
whole
it's it's
world.
it's it's at the end of the day, guys, you gotta look. It's a show because when I went, I'm still in Las Vegas. I've talked to almost every person you could think of, celebrity, because I checked them in because I was a doorman bellman, from rappers to everything to the ones you could think of. But it's like, I guess you could say that if you're not putting on a show for somebody else and you're putting for a show for somebody that's in the mirror, how is that going to affect you and the people around you?
Yeah.
Eventually, they're going to find out you're a fake.
Yeah.
Eventually, they're going to find out that you're seeking attention. I
Hmm.
mean, look at all the shorts I put on this channel, on my personal channel. They're made for me, from an essence from me for you guys, even the ones on YouTube, because this is what me and Doc does. Imagine a life where you're okay with yourself, with the talents and the person that God made you to be. Instead of you seeking validation from the girl, the black girl, the white girl, the Asian girl. Yeah, you might be racking up bodies, but at the end of the day, what if you get tired of the pussy and you turn gay? I'm not saying nothing wrong with being gay. That's your choice. But what if that happens? It has happened. I've seen it happen. Because you're seeking validation for manhood, from masculinity, from outside sources when you have the tools. We've talked about this, but you have the keys. It
Yeah.
took me a while to figure out I had the keys and I controlled the door and
Yeah.
the studs around it and the gaps,
Yeah.
right? How is Doc? How is
But I
what
also,
are
also want
some?
to say, wait, before
Oh,
you ask
go
that
ahead, go
question,
ahead,
we ask that
go ahead.
question. I also want to say this. We talk about the modern man. Um, I'm gonna take a step back, right?
Please. Yep.
Because the fact of the matter is that I remember I was working with a client one time. It was this couple, and the wife was telling me about how she grew up and everything like that. And I had just come up with this concept, or this quote. So this is my quote, so no one's gonna find it anywhere else. But we're born perfect, and then we spend the rest of our life trying to get back to that state,
To
right?
being perfect.
We spend the rest of our life trying to get back
Yep.
there. A, a
Yeah, I
baby,
get
a
that.
baby is cool being a baby.
Yep.
All right. They're not worried about what people think. They're not worried about acceptance. A baby is cool being a baby. Kids are cool being themselves. It's only when we warp them and we twist them and we have all these lies and all these fake stereotypes and things like that that we put on them, all these burdens we
Right.
put on them. And then now we've loaded this person down with all this junk and all this trash and all these things. It's killing them, right? It's causing
Literally.
people to commit suicide.
Literally.
It's causing
Yep.
people to have
Literally.
overdoses. It's causing people to have broken faith. Like it's literally killing them. And now they got to spend the rest of their life trying to get back to what they already were in the beginning.
When
And
you
so
were
the
born.
reason why I say this is
Yep.
because we talk about the modern man. I'm going to tell you right now, when we fell away from God's original design, and whether you're a believer or not, you just stick with it, right? Because God had a design. He's like, this is the way it is, and this is perfect from the beginning, right? And when we fell away from that, there was no other standard outside of that perfection in the moment of being fully accepted. I fully know who I am. And to see the trick, people think about like Adam and Eve, right? The real trick wasn't eat the fruit. That wasn't the real trick. The real trick is the same lie that's being perpetuated right now. And that same lie is you need to do something additional to be more. when you actually are already enough. Adam and Eve were already like God. They were made in his image already. There was nothing more they needed to do or could do. They're already their highest self. So when we're born, we're already our highest self. It's all the trash and the junk that's placed on us. And so I say all this to say, back to the modern man is trash. The last generation's man was trash. The generation before that was trash. And all the way back to Adam and Eve, because if it's not the original good design, if the perfect design, it's less than. And so it's so important for us to get that in our mind because we go back to different time periods and like my grandfather and like this and like that. You mean your grandfather who was beating your grandmother or sleeping around on her? You mean that grandfather? Or you mean your grandfather who was shooting slaves in the field, and dehumanizing people and raping them? You mean that grandfather? Or you mean your grandfather that was running up at people's homes and killing their babies and children? You mean that grandfather? So or waging war for no reason. So we need to get out of this mindset like there was some perfect time period where men were men. It's not. No, because if you're not the complete perfect version, the only perfect time period there was that short period of time in the Garden of Eden. Everything else outside of that was garbage and trash, which is why the world is the way it is today. And that's why we have boundaries and brotherhood to get back to that original state where you can just know that I'm enough already. I don't got to prove myself to no gang
Yes.
member, to no woman, to no business, to no nobody. I'm good as I am. I don't like to prove myself to nobody because guess what? Who are you to me anyways? You're not God. You're not above me. I don't care how much money you have. Listen, you put your pants on just in the same way I do. And you're gonna die just like I'm gonna die. You bleed just like I bleed. You taking the same oxygen that I do. So there's no one out here that's better than me that can tell me how I need to do me, how I need to be for myself. So I say all that to say that it's so important for us to recognize that we're not trying to get back to a time period, right? We're trying to be the full, authentic version of ourselves that we were designed to be from the very beginning. And until we get back to that point, we're always going to be falling short and always going to struggle.
Right, right, right. I mean, so is it. What's up, John Maderis out there from Hawaii? He was my neighbor back in the hood in Kalihi. But I want to say he went through the ring or two back and forth from Halava and everything else. He seen me grow up, I seen him grow up, but we did the exact same things.
Yeah.
We looked outside validation
Yeah.
through old things. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you know what I mean. It's one of those things that you have to figure out. Now, some of the edge that we want to have. What would be some of the things you could do if you're in a situation, Doc? We're gonna do a little like give and take here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me the situation that you think is bad, how you can work it. Three of them. Then we can end the show today because we blew through this whole show.
A situation that's bad.
Yeah, give me a
Let's
situation
start.
that's
Let's start with some main. We could do some mainstays, right?
please. Yep.
Let's start with the relationship. A situation that's bad is being a people pleaser, right? Maybe outside of a
Oh,
relationship. Let's start with that, being a people pleaser,
yes.
right? So you're doing for everybody because you're hoping someone's going to say you're good enough, and they're going to reward you for your efforts.
Ooh,
Yeah,
reward you for your efforts.
yeah.
Yes,
Let's
yes.
start with that, which is a terrible model to follow because if you're choosing to do things for other people, that is your choice. So if they don't reward you, they don't have to because they didn't ask you to do it in the first place. That was
Right.
your choice. So it's a dangerous model and it really leads to burnout really fast. But that's so start to set the stage. That's an issue, right?
Okay.
People pleasing. That's one of them. Right?
Fix it. How do you fix it?
How do you fix it?
Yep.
Okay. First and foremost, recognize that you're stop trying to work for love and acceptance. You cannot work for that. You cannot be good enough for that, right? That's the first step. And second, accept the acceptance that's already there in your life as it is. Because I can guarantee, sir, gentleman, brother, that you already have people in your life that are like, bro, you don't got to do anything, bro. Like you're good enough as
Correct.
it is. Be
Now,
willing to just accept that. Be willing to recognize that I don't have to kill myself in order to receive love. And I already have good, healthy relationships that I can just lean back in. It's okay for me to have conversations. It's okay for me to open up. It's okay for me to be vulnerable. It's okay for me to ask for help. Lean into that. That's okay. It doesn't make you
okay.
less of a man to ask for help.
What would it mean for that individual to have that under control?
Oh my gosh, you could start living. You could actually start actually receiving the love the platonic love, the intimacy love from your wife, the love from your friends, the love from other people. You can actually free your mind. You're not going to have all that stress and anxiety and hurt and self-deprecation about how nobody cares about you, nobody loves you. So now your mind is free. Now you can be creative. Now you can expand. Now you can grow. Now you can start changing your own life and taking charge of your own path. Um, Shoot, what else? I mean, yeah, of course
But that's what it means, guys.
yeah,
If you're a people pleaser, if you're looking for a situation and you taking it over the top for other people to seek validation, not be happy yourself, but you want a life, guys. If you want a life when you take control of your life, command respect, do the things, run the business with a give and take method where you can draw the boundaries, draw lines, draw the line in your sand, so that you can have the life you went back to when you were born. What would that make you feel? How would you grow? How much money you think you'd in the lack of money, just being happy with having a purpose life? See, the difference between that is you could be a people pleaser for the wrong reasons, or you could be a people pleaser with boundaries and command and respect so that people respect you in an ultimate setting.
man.
See how deep that goes, right?
Oh, man.
Because that's the difference between working with us or walking or watching the gurus, the alpha males, the so-called alpha males, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they come to guys like me to help them market their shit.
Yeah. They're not alpha. I mean, I want to say no disrespect, and it actually is no
No, yeah,
disrespect, right?
it's
Because the fact
money
I'm going
grab
to say is that it's the programming, right? They're only doing what
programming.
they know. It's
Yep.
what they've heard, right?
Yep.
And the thing is, we as people, whenever we grab onto something, we get some little bit of success. It's like, oh, this must be it. Let me run it and keep going and going and going, and then it starts having diminishing returns, right? Because yeah, alpha male, you're going to get the girl at first. You're going to make the
At
money. You're going to get
first.
the car. You're going to get the house. It's gonna feel good in the moment, but then when it happens when it falls off, because it will fall off. Now what do?
Yep.
Oh, more of the same, right?
Repeat it.
More
Yep.
women,
Repeat
more
it back
cars,
again.
more money, more business. I still don't feel good. Oh, maybe I do more. And so then it's not until you've done enough damage to yourself and to others, and you finally sit back and realize, like, oh shoot, I, I fumbled the bag. I really messed up and I led a lot of people astray. If you're a person that has genuinely trying to help other men, and that's the men that's why I'm saying, it's not a dig at them and no offense to them, because some genuinely are like, hey, it worked for me. Maybe it can work for you too. Right.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So
Correct.
so that's why I'm not going to disparage anybody, but I'm just saying that,
Absolutely.
that's what this could do for you, working with us, so you can actually be your full authentic self. Just imagine a life where you don't have to actually work for love and acceptance. Imagine a life where you could just be yourself, and just you showing up being yourself, it boosts your confidence. It draws people to you. Imagine that. I want you to seriously take some time and visualize that. What is it like when you can walk in and command a room? What is it like when you don't got to say two words, but you can still command power and authority and influence in any sphere of influence you're in? Or any space you're in, just take a think and just imagine that. And this is just you being your authentic self. You don't have to put on for anybody. You don't got to wear the $1 billion suit or anything like that. You just show up, and you just being yourself is more than enough. Take some time and imagine that, because that's what we can help you achieve. That's what we can help you get to, and just watch, I gotta tell you, just watch your life take off in so many different ways.
Doc
Yeah,
is going off. I told you Doc will go off today because it's his birthday.
yeah.
He's 22 years young.
That's
But
what it
this is
is.
a perfect situation. But guys, we're gonna end this right here because we blew through our time limit right here. But if you like this type of content, please head on to um, our school community or the community on YouTube. Please like and share this up. I know some of you guys out there have boys that need to hear some of this crap,
Yeah,
because this was some of the things that we talked about from two different insights. Guys, if you head on over to YouTube, go to the school community, see that scan code in the back of docs. If you want professional help, you want to talk to somebody, pause the video later, scan that code.
yeah,
My code for Boundaries and Brotherhood is the logo. But reach out. You're gonna find us on all social media platforms. Watch the inspirational videos on this channel, guys, because the faces videos I make for you guys to understand, to get in a motivation in the morning. I do one at 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. The nighttime is doc, and then sometimes you have carry stuff that's for women and to have an understanding for women. Doc, close it out, please, because this has been one of the major ones. This is good.
yeah. Yeah. I guess that I'm going off a little bit because of my birthday. It wasn't intentional.
Yes.
these
I love
topics,
it.
I'm passionate about
Beautiful
these
topic.
topics because,
Beautiful topic.
to see so many people bound when they don't have to be, by
Right.
lies that can't even be verified.
Right.
It hurts. There are men right now out here destroying themselves. There's men out here thinking that they're not enough. There's men out here trying to self-medicate just to blunt the
You.
pain of not being enough.
Yep.
So this family's getting destroyed because there's men who feel like they're not enough. And so, it's just really important, guys, for you to understand that you are enough, right? You don't have to do anything to be enough, right? You're already enough as it is. And so, and that's why we're here for those who still feel for whatever reason, it's like, hey, I'm not enough. That's why we're here to kind of
Please
guide you,
reach out.
lead the way, give you the strategies you need so that you could recognize and start living your life on your terms. Start enjoying your relationships. Start, enjoying time with your kids, you know, start making more money. Finally, branch out, not being scared. Go branch out and do the things you always wanted to do. Start the business, travel, leave everything behind and go backpack across Europe, whatever it is you want to do. Eliminate that fear of like, oh, what if people don't approve? Or what if mom doesn't approve, or dad or my wife? No, you can eliminate that fear by just you being yourself,
You.
exactly who you were designed to be anyways. Because guess what? You're not meant to be like me. You're not meant to be like Gordon. You're not meant to be like all these other people. Like, you're meant to be
To be
you.
you. Yep.
That's it. That's all you can be. You can't be me because you're not me. You can only be you, and I can't be you because you're not, I'm not you. So I say all this to say, guys, I just want to leave that encouragement with you that you already have everything you need as it is, right? You already
Yes.
are enough,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
But if you need help, if you need strategies, if it's like, what, I hear you, Keith, I hear you, Gordon. It's all well, it's all good, man, but I don't know how. That's what we're here for. We're here to show you the how to get you from being insecure, how to get you from being the 10 other men, how to get you from being, an overachiever who still hates themselves and still trying to earn that approval from ultimately your mom and your dad, right? How to get you from that to get you to be the full total man, just secure, confident, powerful, knows himself, can guide others as a leader, a provider, a protector, a lover, can embrace his vulnerability, can open up with other people, can share, can ultimately leave a legacy. We can give you
Nah.
the how to get there. That's what we can do.
All right. Now, how are we going to end with down?
Um,
Guys,
it-
this is Gordon Watt from Boundaries and Brotherhood, right? Look us up on all social media. I'm the guy making all this stuff. Doc is a professional in therapy. Scan the code. Look him up on Freedom Change Success and hit us up. We're here. We have the tools. We have
yeah.
everything that you need to change your life and become the person you were meant to be when you got born. All
Yes.
right. I want to say
All right.
aloha. We'll catch you later.
You
Bye
guys
bye.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Boop, 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 boop. All right. That went kind of smooth, actually.
Yeah.
That was a good one, actually.
Yeah.